Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We're on episode 25, 26, and 27 of season 2 of Ace of the Diamond, and it's been a while. So, it's not been a while for you all. It's been 1 week, but I honestly, because of the holiday season, I recorded ahead so that I could get everything uploaded before Christmas and before New Year's, and so it's been about a week and a half since I have watched Ace of the Diamond. It's been a bit, and I kind of ended on a weird note. Someone on YouTube was like, oh, make sure that you watch episode 25 with the others. And I was like, I didn't do it. So we kind of ended on like a soft cliffhanger. It wasn't as bad as a few sets ago when it was like a big cliffhanger. This one wasn't as bad, but it's still kind of a cliffhanger because when we last left off, Sawamura had been doing okay, but was having some doubts about his pitching and everything, and the rest of the team kind of came in together and tried to coerce him. And Sawamura makes me nervous a lot in this series because he gets to a good point. It feels like he's doing really good, and then when he starts to doubt himself even a little bit, or something throws his game off, it's like no, Sawamura, don't cave. It's like, just keep going. So I just want him to finish out this game for them to win and move on. I feel like we've had Furuya going through his phase. We're having Sawamura go through his phase with his new type of pitch. I feel like Nori is next. I feel like we're going to focus on Nori next. That's my hope anyway, assuming that we make it to the semifinals. Assuming, right? Because we're at the quarterfinals now. So, and Ochiai was starting to change his tune a little bit last set of episodes. Like things are in development. Last set was a big development episode, and we have Oya and we have Go. And Go is actually, I like Go a lot better on the mound than I do up in the stands. When he's up in the stands, he's kind of pretentious and he's kind of a jerk. But then when he's on the mound, he realizes, Sato's not going to be as easy as you thought it would be. You thought you're just going to come in like Sakurazawa and sweep them because you're the public school that could. And it's like, yeah, no, they're a baseball school. Yeah, for a reason. And they're tough. And so I like Go has got a little dash of humble pie to go with his pitching. And so I like his character a lot more, seeing him actually in the game and seeing him kind of falter and not be perfect than I did when he was just kind of flaunting and flittering around up in the stands. So there's that. But I'm excited to get into this episode, y'all. It's called Zeal, so it should be interesting. I'm assuming that we're probably going to end the match this episode or the next episode. I'm assuming. But this show makes me so nervous because at this point we're halfway with this episode. We're halfway through season 2. It's still anybody's call. Like, they could lose this game and not go on to the semifinals, and we could just focus on the other teams that do go into semifinals. They could make it to the finals. They could not. With this series, I feel like the thing of it is we see so many episodes off the field that this show could have them lose this game, and then the rest of the season is like refocusing and starting the next year. So I just don't know with this series. It can pretty much do whatever it wants, and we just have to follow along. So with that being said, I'm pretty excited though to get into this season, to this set of episodes, and see what all happens. So let's do this, shall we? We are going to start episode 25 of season 2, Ace of the Diamond, here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. This episode was really good. All 3 of these episodes are really good. Man, what a development at the end of the last one, though. What? We're having a scrimmage, and it's going to be Ochiai versus Kataoka? Okay. All right. There's a lot. I took 2 full solid pages of notes. Like 2 full solid note sides. There was a lot that happened in these episodes. Zeal, episode 25. Our boy Sawamura pitched a full 9-inning game. He pitched a full 9-inning game. That I feel like that should be highlighted because that's what he pitched the whole game. The full 9 innings. That's what Ochiai's been wanting Furuya to do this entire time, and it's not even going to happen yet because even in the scrimmage game, Kataoka's like, let Nori come in the 6th inning. Don't let Furuya play the entire time. So it's like, but Sawamura played the entire game. I'm like, and I love that people finally recognize that Sawamura is a good pitcher. They're finally recognizing he's a good pitcher. And when the crowd cheered along with him and they were like, yes, 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 I was like, episode 25 was my heart. I love that episode. because we have followed our long-suffering protagonist through all of this, and I feel like at the end, I feel like episode 27, I was starting to get the inkling that Sawamura was about to get dropped down a peg again, and I was like, damn it, but maybe not. We need to talk about this episode. We need to talk about the 7 episodes, because there's lots of stuff going on, and there's parts of it that I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it, but we need to talk it out. But yeah, the pitch against Kasuga, the breaking ball, it all working. Like, as soon as I saw him with the number 18 on his back, I'm like, that's going to be the thumbnail. Like, the rainbow pitch with the white background. Oh, yeah. And then Miyuki just being like, my heart. And Miyuki's like, I want Furuya and Sawamura. He's like, I've got to control both these pitchers. But I'm like, you can't tell me he doesn't prefer Sawamura just a little bit. That's my shipper heart in me that I'm like, even though Furuya is terrifying, that breaking ball was absolutely terrifying. But yeah, but Chris-senpai, I was gushing over Chris being in these episodes because it's Chris-senpai, and I know we're not going to see him. We're not going to get to see Chris for a while after this game, other than like them watching the game. We're not going to get to see him a lot because he's busy doing other things. But I'm like, Chris is so pure, and seeing his face when Sawamura did the breaking ball, like Chris's face, it was so perfect. I was like, oh my god, yes. It was absolutely perfect. It was so damn good. But yeah, the breaking ball worked. And I love that Miyuki invited, like Miyuki is, and Chris even noted, he's like, you're giving Sawamura a lot of praise. And it's like, he is, because he's proud of him. But he's our little gremlin troll, so he doesn't know how to express it. It's like, aw. But yeah, going 3-2. I will say this. So yeah, Go the whole thing about Go's confidence. I wanted to talk about this because Go and Mei in these games, in this game with Go, it was very similar to Mei's game where he had the breakdown, but the results were not the same. No. Because Mei's whole thing was that he wanted to shoulder all the burden himself and take responsibility, and he thought that being the ace meant leading his team to victory, and he wasn't acting like a team player. Go's whole thing is a bit different. Go was acting with his team, but he recognized that he was the weaker link. In his mind, he's like, I'm the weaker link. It was because of my pitches that they were able to score and we lost. It wasn't because of you all, it was because of me. And it wasn't that he tried to shoulder the burden like Mei had. It was that Go just recognized it and knew he had to get better. And so there is a big difference there. Like Mei was realizing his pitches weren't working and that they caused them to get runs. So there is a distinct difference. And I think that's also why the coach for Oya at the end was like smiling, because he knew Go understood what had happened. And he's like, he knew Go got it, and he's like, Go was going to get better. And the coach was like, okay, you know what needs to be done. Whereas in Kunitomo's case, he had to tell Mei what needed to be done. Mei didn't get it. He had to spell it out in black and white. And it's like, oh. So it was a totally different scenario. But Go, I ended up liking his character a bit. He's still a little pretentious snot, but at times. But I really liked his character at the end of how human he was. I was like, he was very relatable in that moment. When Sawamura said, I can't, for a second, and Miyuki was like, I thought Sawamura was going to be like, something's wrong, but he's like, I can't wait to get back on the mound. It's like, and that's part of the dilemma here, right? Because you have Kataoka and you have Ochiai, two coaches that both of them value. Kataoka, back a few episodes ago, was talking about how Sawamura, he likes Sawamura, and I feel like Kataoka sees a lot of himself in Sawamura, but he is using, Ochiai pointed out, he is using Sawamura to bolster Furuya, right? And it worked. It worked. Like Sawamura pitching the 9 innings and doing well, it got Furuya fired up, and it got him wanting to learn a breaking ball and become better. So the strategy works, but I feel like in some sense, up until this episode, and here's the thing, up until this episode, this set of episodes, I felt in a little sense like Kataoka was maybe using Sawamura, and I don't like the idea of Sawamura being used to make someone better. Like in Ochiai's case, Ochiai has no intention of ever making Sawamura the ace. Ever. He's gonna just use Sawamura. If Sawamura had stayed, if Ochiai becomes coach and Kataoka does indeed resign, then Ochiai is never going to let Sawamura become the ace. Ever. He's just going to use him and let Furuya keep growing. Like, that's been established in this set of episodes for sure. So I get really uncomfortable with that, because Sawamura's whole goal is to become the ace and become the best player that he can be. And I worry about Sawamura. If Ochiai becomes the coach, I'm like, I don't see him ever letting Sawamura be the ace. And I'm like, that's kind of like what this whole show is about. So, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's not about becoming the ace. Who knows? So I get worried about that. But Furuya, God, he got fired up. And then when we find out in the next episode about his grandpa, that's a whole nother deal. But yeah, him getting fired up. Haruichi getting the home run. I was like, take that, Ochiai. Shut your face. I like that these last set of episodes have made Ochiai kind of rethink his strategy and rethink the way he was thinking about things. Because Ochiai, he can be a good teacher, but he's also a snake. First and foremost, he is a snake. And I'm like, he's lighting fires under people, but I'm like, I don't know if it's going to become arson or if it's like a controlled burn, right? You know, that's the thing. Is this going to be like a case of arson, or is it going to be like a controlled burn where it does actually help them grow, or is it going to just spiral out of control? And that's the thing. I don't think Ochiai cares as long as he gets the results that he wants. So I've been talking about Kawakami, about Nori, him having to improve as a pitcher. And this set of episodes, yeah, they're setting Nori up to face the pitcher from Seiko. They're setting Nori up, and we'll talk about that. But I love the moment of Kuramochi and Haruichi, like with the thumbs up, where he's like, you're getting better. It's like, that's great. I love that. And we'll talk about Haruichi a little bit later. But yeah, Sensen's coach. I thought Sensen was going to win. I thought they were setting something major. They really don't want to give Maki a chance in this show. They don't want to give Maki a chance, right? It's very much David and Goliath. They don't want to give Maki a chance at all. Because I really expected Sensen to win and to have this big rematch against Sato, and Maki to have a big rematch against Sato, and nope. Didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. I was like, damn. So, very interesting. And we're going to talk about Seiko here in a minute, but very, very interesting. But yeah, Maki saying, them calling him the land of pitchers. And Maki coming back in that moment when they're like, Sato's the land of pitchers now. They got 3 really good pitchers. And Maki's like, it doesn't matter how many pitchers they have and how good they are. It matters who's the ace and who's the best on the mound. And it's like, you're not wrong, right? But man, episode 25 was just really, really good. And then we had episodes 26 and 27. They were very good too. But, so episode 26... yeah, Maki is huge. When Maki steps out, like Haruichi comes like to his abdomen. I was like, oh my god, like Maki has to be like 6'6" or 6'7". He's so freaking huge. If baseball doesn't work out for him, he has a future in volleyball. He could go play for Nekoma. I'm just saying, him and Lev would probably get along. But yeah, Nori having to step up his game. They're setting it up. They talked about Seiko having really aggressive batters, and they set up that the one pitcher who has control and can keep cool is Nori. And Nori wanting Miyuki to teach him the sinker again. Nori wants to be useful. He wants to go in this game and do well. So I'm going to throw it out here that I'm going to predict that it doesn't matter whether Furuya or Sawamura pitches. I think Nori's going to close the semifinal game, and Nori's going to win it for him. Because my prediction is the final of this whole season, the season finale is going to be Yakushi versus Sato. It's going to be 2.0. And it's going to be Sawamura versus Raichi 2.0. And I'm like, I don't count the makeup game, the scrimmage as 2.0 because Sawamura was in a terrible place with the yips. And it's just, no. It's setting up that rematch. It's not the rematch we were expecting with Inashiro, but I'm expecting the rematch with Yakushi. I'm like, and will Yakushi win it, though? That's the question. Will Yakushi win the finals and go to nationals? I don't know. But they can, if it's invitational, can't they still get invited if they made it to the finals, even if they don't win? Can't they still get invited to the fall nationals? So there's a chance, maybe. Because Yakushi lost the last round, but I don't know. I don't know, y'all. But yeah, Furuya's grandfather. So that's interesting. I feel bad for Furuya that he didn't get to play at the one game his grandpa comes to, and then you hear Sawamura getting all this praise, and that fires up Furuya even more because he's like, my grandpa came. And then I like that Rei is exposition no jutsu. She's like, well, did you know that since Furuya's not going to talk to you all about this personal information, did you know his family's actually from Tokyo, but they moved to Hokkaido because of their family's work, and then the grandfather came back? And everybody's like, oh. like Furuya was not offering this information at all. But I feel bad for Furuya because his grandfather did come to watch him play, and he makes the idea, he's like, express your will. Like, don't sit on the sidelines waiting for it to happen. And that line, that makes so much sense with Furuya's character Because Furuya is very much a gung-ho, I'm gonna do it type of person. And you get the impression that his grandfather kind of encouraged him to be like that. His grandfather was like, you're not going to get picked if you just sit on the sidelines waiting. You have to express your will and go for it. And so that explains why Furuya is the way that he is. That's really cool. I also like that Kuromochi comes up to Furuya, and Kuromochi's like, my grandfather and I are really close, so I get that. It's like, oh cool, Kuromochi's bonding with Furuya. Cool. But then also Sawamura, even though Sawamura doesn't vocalize it, he thinks back to his own grandfather, and then his grandfather's beating him up, so he's like, we have a quite different relationship. But I really feel like Furuya, even though he's the ace of the team, he doesn't have he's not very sociable, so Furuya doesn't have a lot of friends. I really feel like Haruichi is Furuya's main friend, is Haruichi, because Haruichi's nice and he's friends with everybody. But Furuya's just not openly social at all. So, also the fact that Furuya's grandfather played baseball, when Ochiai is talking about him being a prodigy, I'm like, well, it could be genetic. Just saying, could be genetic, although that doesn't always work out. My mother was an amazing basketball player, and I have no coordination, so comes and goes, right? But yeah, so yeah, Sensen versus Seiko. Damn, and then Kumakiri. So, this is interesting, and this should have been like foreshadowing that Seiko was going to win. The idea about the coach stepping down, that there's something to it, right? There's going to be something come up in this next game that's going to tie back to that, because they established that Kumakiri was the coach that stepped down from their school, from Seiko, and all the team players, they're all playing for him. They're playing for him, and they're looking for him in the stands and everything. And I'm like, that is such a parallel to our boys at Saito playing for Kataoka, but Kataoka's actually there. So it's like, interesting. And we'll talk about that with episode 27. But that's an interesting dynamic they're setting up, that Seiko's coach isn't there and he resigned and these guys are playing for him. And here we have Saito, whose coach is in the process of resigning, and they're playing for him. It's an interesting dynamic. And at that point, I should have realized they were going to win. But I still thought that Sensen was going to do it. Even when they were 3 runs behind, I'm like, well, they can catch up. And it looked like Maki was going to do it, but nope. And so we have Yone, we have number 11, and then Masu. We have the catcher, the first year. Ha! He's terrifying. This giant first year pitcher who's huge. He's terrifying. I like the catcher for Seiko that's always like, just he's so little and he's like pounding on the first year's chest. I like that. We get their names. We have, where is it? Where am I at? We have Kojima and Ogawa. So Yone Ogawa is the big one, and then Kojima is the ace of the team. But yeah, they're like stocky and burly and tough. Interesting. And they lost the first round of the summer tournament, so they got kicked out early, and now they're back with a vengeance, which could be like a tie to the coach leaving. We don't know. But yeah, as soon as they said that they had aggressive batters, I'm like, oh, well, Nori's being set up to be thrown in here, so that's fine. And then in episode 26, we take a break and we go see Inashiro versus Sagara, and Mei, our diva pitcher. He's like in his cocoon right now. He's about to burst out into a beautiful rainbow butterfly, but he is in his cocoon at the moment. Old Mei is, and he's evolving as a player, absolutely. But I like the idea that the Itsuki can handle him. Itsuki can take him. When they're both bantering back and forth, I'm like, Itsuki can handle him. I have faith in Itsuki. And it's not going to be, we see that it's not a perfect process. Itsuki's watched Miyuki. He's got inspiration, but it's not a perfect, seamless thing. They've got to work together and kind of transition and get their rhythm about themselves, and they're just not there yet, which is still kind of cool, though. But yeah, the idea of stepping up. And Carlos and the others. I love Carlos saying that he never saw Mei as a leader. They followed Mei because Mei is strong and he's a good player, but they never saw him as a leader. And that makes so much sense now because they didn't really listen to him during the other games. It was always Harada that kind of herded these cats together, these talented cats. And now that Harada's gone, they're having to find a leader, and Mei is trying to become that. So I'm like, and I love that flashback where he's just raking the mound, and they were like, they'd taken bets on how long he'd cry, and he's like, no, I gotta keep going. It's like, and I like that for Inashiro, it's kind of like Mei relates a lot to Sawamura in this case, because it's kind of like Sawamura went on his journey with the yips at the start of this season, and now Mei's kind of in that spot too, where Mei's making mistakes. He's not pitching well, and people are commenting on it, but he's he's reevaluating and rebuilding himself. It's like, And then, I'm sorry, but I love Harada. I love Chris-senpai, but I may love Harada just as much. And it's the most unlikely thing. So you would think, going into this series, when we first met Harada, I was like, okay, he's Inishiro's catcher, whatever. There's just something about him that I'm like, damn, Harada's just so freaking cool, and he's so calm. And him and Mei are like the perfect pairing, because Harada's so chill, he can handle Mei's diva outbursts. It's like, oh. And I love that he went to go watch the draft with his coach, because he's going to go pro. And that moment where Mei is like, I'm going to be right up there with you. Wherever you go, I'm going to follow you. It's like, it's so, like, my shipper heart is like, okay, Mei and Harada, I can dig it. And Mei's like, I'm going to follow you wherever you go, best bro. It's like, even if it's platonic, they're besties. Him and Harada, they're bros. And I'm like, I absolutely love it. It's so freaking good. But I'm like, I would, if Mei's going to go pro, I want him to be with Harada. Absolutely. Oh, man. And then episode 27, I took a whole page of notes on episode 27 because what? Okay. So, I think that we're establishing Furuya and Sawamura being two really good pitchers in their own right. Furuya has the power. He has the power and the speed. Sawamura has the technique and the sustainability. That's Furuya's biggest downfall. Furuya's just so overwhelming in his power. He pitches too much. And Sawamura, his problem is that he doesn't have the speed or the power. He just has, the technique and the unpredictability. But 109 pitches in 9 innings isn't bad. It's not bad compared to what we've seen other pitchers do. Like, what was it? There was one game where, like, in the 4th inning, they were already at 60 or something. It's like, okay. But Sawamura getting greedy, and I love Miyuki's yara yara. He's like, yara yara. Like, no, don't get greedy. And I like that it comes full circle in this episode, that Sawamura's wanting to, like, learn all the things. Miyuki's like, no. Practice what you're good at. Perfect what you're good at, and then we'll learn new things. And I like that it all comes full circle at the end when Kataoka's like, okay, perfect what you got now. And then Sawamura's like, okay, I won't be greedy. And it's like, they have two very different reactions, Sawamura and Furuya do. And Nori. We'll talk about that. But yeah, so Kojima and Ogawa are the two pitchers for Seiko. They're the two pitchers for Seiko. And then Ochiai taking Ochiai's words to heart. So it's curious, right? What's curious is that these guys are all... Ochiai does make good suggestions. He does. But Ochiai, he frustrates me a lot because a lot of times Ochiai's personal preference gets in the way and it clouds him from giving people a chance. Like he bashed Haruichi and he bashed Sawamura and he bashed Zono. And then in the actual game he saw that, oh wait, these 3 players that I trash talked and made feel bad actually might have potential. What? It's like... what? So I feel like Ochiai he's a good instructor and he knows how to teach well. He just sometimes lets his own emotions cloud his judgment, which is interesting. But yeah, the idea of not admitting defeat, that the second string is not admitting defeat. They're going to power through. And so it's interesting that Kataoka takes them on and includes Sawamura. So we're going to talk about that. But this whole thing with the breaking ball and Furuya, I'm like, are we just trying to make Furuya OP? Are we just trying to? Because I really like the idea that Sawamura had something Furuya didn't. But now Furuya, of course Furuya's jealous because he sees Sawamura do something really cool and he's like, I want to do that. But didn't they establish that if you do it wrong, if you don't do the breaking ball thing right, you'll mess up your form? That's my one thing. Like the one fastball was really good and Miyuki was like, oh shit. But I'm like, I worry about Furuya. Furuya seems greedy. That's the thing. Furuya is getting greedy and Sawamura got humbled in this episode. That's the big difference. I was trying to think of how to vocalize it, but Ochiai is a snake and he's just feeding and fostering. He's fostering Furuya's greed because Furuya wants to learn the breaking ball and he's calling Furuya a prodigy. He's like, you could be the best pitcher in Japan. And Furuya's like, and Furuya we've established, that's the thing that's cool about this series, is that we have established over 90 episodes. Like 90 episodes at this point, we have established this was like episode 100. We're on episode 100 with this episode. So in 100 episodes, we have established that Furuya is like, he's very greedy. He loves praise. And Ochiai is just like spoon feeding it to him. He's like, you're going to be the best pitcher in Japan under my tutelage. Come, my Sith apprentice. I will make you a Sith Lord. I felt like it was Darth Sidious taking Darth Vader away. I was like, no, Furuya, don't go to the dark side. But yeah, Ochiai he's just fanning the flames, right? And fanning those blue flames. And he wants Furuya to be the best, right? And Furuya to be the best in Japan. And so Furuya gets greedy. He's getting greedy. But Sawamura is kind of doing the opposite by the end of this episode. But before we get to that, I do want to say, Nori, I like that Nori is like, okay, Sawamura's found his niche. He's found the breaking balls. He's found his changeup. Great. Furuya is evolving too and getting better. He's like, I need to do something. Nori's like, I've got to get better if I'm going to keep up with them. And I like that Miyuki asks, he's like, did Ochiai tell you to do this? And Nori's like, no, this was my decision. And I like that. I like that Nori's like, I made my own path. I've made this choice. He's like, I'm ready to learn sinkers again. Okay. And Ochiai questions him. He's like, why'd you quit? And Nori, being not a snake, was like, I don't want to talk about it. It's a long story. While Kataoka is like in the distance. So I like that. I like that Nori's like, okay, I'm going to get... I feel like Nori's sinker and all that is going to be the thing that saves the game. I feel like that's going to be a thing. I feel so. But then, yeah, Kataoka, Ochiai is like taking the silver spoon and feeding it into our prodigy Furuya. And meanwhile, I didn't know what Kataoka was going to do with Sawamura, but it's the opposite. He like humbles Sawamura. He's like, look, you found something that's made you a good pitcher. Now, you've gained your sea legs. Now learn to walk. He's like, step by step. We do this one step at a time. Don't get greedy. Don't try to move too fast. Perfect what you know, and that'll open the doors up for you to get better and better. And Sawamura's like, okay, sure, I can do that. And it's like, all right, cool. So it all came full circle. I get worried about Furuya being so greedy. I don't know how to feel about that and where we're going with that. It's going to be interesting. Very interesting. But then, yeah, Sawamura revealed the plan. He's like, 2 more wins, coach, and you can't leave because we got to take us to nationals. And the sad thing is Kataoka probably was thinking about leaving by nationals, but it's like, oh. But that look on his face, that surprise on his face when Sawamura told him, and then that little smile that he gets afterwards, it's like Kataoka feeling like his team was doing it for him. And so we're going to talk about that at the end of this episode because I want to go back to it. But we have the free day. Again, I love that this show is consistent. It ties back the continuity. It ties back to they all went on that trip. So they had a basic free day. And I understand what that's like. I come from a very small high school. So when we were in high school, if people were on like a big trip or something and most of the class was gone, we just had a free day and we just went outside and played, or we did like, you know, board games or something, or just kind of goofed off. And that's kind of what they're like, playing soccer outside, like becomes a different sports anime for 5 seconds. And then Ryo's like, Haruichi's brother's like, oh, they'll show this like action movie in the one class you guys will probably watch. It's like, it's cool. But yeah, so the question is, they asked in the room, would Kataoka take back his resignation? I honestly think that this scrimmage game is going to determine part of that. I don't know. I feel like it's a test. That everybody's commenting on Ochiai being a good instructor and a good coach. And so Kataoka's like, okay, we're gonna put it to the test, Ochiai. If you're gonna take over the string, how are you gonna do it? What are you gonna do? Here's how I'm going to do it. Now, what are you going to do? And so we're going to see Kataoka versus Ochiai. And of course, Ochiai, he gets the advantage of having the first string. And Kataoka being the gracious coach that he is, he's like, I'll take the second string. It's like, okay. All right. Of course, Ochiai gets Furuya and Kataoka gets Sawamura. And then Kawakami is going to be left to take over in the 6th inning. Now, the question is Ochiai going to follow through with Kataoka, or is he going to be like, nah, Furuya can pitch. Let him pitch. I don't know, but Kataoka, I love that also that line with the one guy, he's number 8 on the team, he has the buzz cut. They're like, Kataoka's like, play like, don't try to imitate Ryo, play like yourself. and then it cuts right from him to Haruichi. And I feel like that's like a big thing. That's like Haruichi's growth arc in this season, is Haruichi slowly becoming his own player and getting out of his brother's shadow. I feel like that's what's happening with his character. It's interesting. It's very interesting. But yeah, Ochiai, king of the bullpen. With all the pitchers. And Furuya's breaking ball, it was really good. It was scary. I'm like, well, shit. It's like Sawamura gets one thing that puts him ahead, and now it's back to Furuya possibly getting ahead too. That is the one frustrating thing too, is that I want Sawamura to become the ace, right? Because I think he has the spirit and the passion for it, and he rallies the troops. That's going to be the thing too, right? That's going to be the thing. Does the spirit of the ace is going to come to play in this game? Because you have Furuya, who's the prodigy, who's the good player, but does Furuya have the spirit of the ace? Are you going to take the second string pitcher, Sawamura, who has the spirit, and is it going to lead them to victory? I don't know. Because it can go either way, right? It's going to go both ways. It's like either... It's going to go both ways. Like, is Sawamura... Like, it's going to break Sawamura's heart if they lose. It's going to break Furuya's heart if they lose. I'm like, It would be interesting if no matter who wins or loses, if Nori's the one that pitches in the game. In the game against Seiko. I'm just saying. The intra squad, all that, and Kataoka. This next couple episodes is going to be interesting, and I don't know how to feel about it. But yeah, the ref, and Yuki being the ref too. So you're gonna Harada, Kariba. I think it's Kariba. I always get his name wrong. He has spiky hair. He's gonna be the catcher for Sawamura, and then Miyuki is gonna be the catcher for Furuya. Makes sense. Because I don't think anybody else could catch Furuya's pitches, to be honest. I don't think Kariba could do it. But yeah, and then that ED. I like the new OP. I really like the new ED. The tune for the new ED, it's a bop. I like it. But oh my gosh, you guys. I'm really hyped up for the next set of episodes, but I'm so tense because it's going to be Sawamura and Furuya and them versus each other. It's going to be Sawamura versus Furuya. What the heck, man? Sawamura is going to have to pitch against Miyuki. Sawamura is going to have to pitch against Miyuki. He's going to have to pitch against Haruichi. He's going to have to pitch against all of them. What the heck? That's going to be insanity. Okay. It just dawned on me that Sawamura is going to have to pitch against Miyuki and Haruichi and Zono and all the people that were just cheering him on. He's going to pitch against. Okay. So this set of episodes is really good. Really good. I'm really excited about it. But it's going to be interesting to see Ochiai versus Kataoka. Oh, buddy. So, we'll see how that goes. I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction. These 3 episodes were great, but I'm super hyped now. So, and we aren't even, it's not even an official game. It's not even the semifinals. It's just a scrimmage, and I'm probably more excited for it than I am the game against Seiko. By the way, I would put money that Yakushi's gonna beat it. That's gonna beat Ichidai, because the first OP, it was all about Yakushi, and then they throw Ichidai into the second OP to like make you question. But I'm like, Raichi is gonna. I just feel like Sanada and Raichi are gonna win, but I could be wrong. In any case, I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, next week we will do episodes 28, 29, and 30 of Season 2 of Ace of the Diamond. Bye.